Hello and welcome to week 5 of the Road to London of Paula's Run Club with me, Paula Radcliffe.
And me, Christopher Thompson.
And this week we have an amazing guest coming up in Rob Deering, who co-hosts his podcast with fellow comedian Paul Tonkinson, Running Commentary, and he's going to share a lot of those funny moments and a lot of great tips as well. Right, Thommo, it's flying by now. We are in week 5. Starting to get real. Little pitfalls that people should watch out for this week. I mean, I think starting to notice warning signs is a good thing to think about, perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of time to take stock. I think the thing for me always at this point is you're settling into. I don't want to over dramatise a little bit of the realisation of the challenge ahead, because you're starting to get a little bit of accumulation of training now. Things are becoming more structured, a little bit more kind of serious, I guess, just in a focusing way. Because whenever you set yourself a challenge, as you get closer, you inevitably nerves or kind of the thought process to that day kind of narrows in and you're focused. But I think one of the things I like to do, and I was thinking about this, that sometimes you can take for granted when you do it for years and years. I think starting to think about planning ahead is a really good thing right now. So you start thinking about when you're doing a big session. You don't wait to the day before to plan where and who and how and all that. Take away some of the stress through planning for, what your recovery fuel or having food in the house or where you're going to be, all the little things that kind of are almost distractions from the session. And it's a good practice for when you get to race day, because I think planning and being prepared and keeping the simple things simple enables you to do the focus more on the difficult things, which are the sessions or the working hard. Is kind of, I think this is a good time to sort of have that planning, and also having those backups, almost having those go-to people that when you're having a bad day, they will be able to come out on a bike with you or run with you or whatever, or meet you. Just having those kind of sort of tough day buddies, I guess. I've kind of come up with a phrase there. I don't know, but do you know what I mean?
Yeah, the guys who've got your back, who are going to meet you on that corner and make sure that you get out there and do your training run. Also, little things like that run that you can do not with your eyes closed, but I always like to have one of those really easy runs. I called it the downhill run. And if I'm really tired, I'm going to do my downhill run, which basically was downhill for most of the first part. It did have a horrible hill at the end, obviously, to get back to where it started. But at least if you were feeling really tired, it was kind of pleasant for the first 20 odd minutes. And then you kind of had to turn around and try and get back up it. But I think having one of those runs that are easy runs, feel good runs. And then that fail-safe one that I always used to use, get out new kit. New kit, new shoes, you kind of feel a little bit fresher going out the door, a little bit bouncier, even though it's only just a little bit of kidology, really. But it is just kind of helping you to get out on those tired days. Because we are week 5, they will start to be kicking in, won't they?
It's funny, you say the what was it? You said the blind run, the eye shut run. I call it
not blind run. You can do it with your eyes shut.
That's right. That's what you said. Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So my brain's already. Well, this works because what I was going to say.
Please don't put blindfolds on and go out running outside anymore.
My word phrasing was the brainless runs. So it's like you take your brain out of it. So it's the same thing, but obviously. It works because I couldn't remember what you said, but how you said it. But yeah, it's keeping those. How do you make those easy days even easier? And that's what we're trying to say, isn't it?
Definitely. And those joining together with a group is a brilliant way of doing that. Whether it's with a club or whether it's with a few mates, it doesn't really matter. It just kind of enables you to wake up that competitive spirit a little bit, ramp it up a little bit, get a bit more out of yourself, but also makes it more fun and more enjoyable. I mean, I took my my son to a squad get-together for the regional kind of cross-country athletes of all levels, so stuff from under-15s all the way up to seniors and vets. And he said to me, "Why are we driving so far?" I said, "Because when you get there, it's going to be that much more fun and you're just going to kind of stretch yourself." And then I ended up joining in at the end, just kind of making them catch me.
Nice.
Wakened up a few old spirits. I wasn't really going that fast because I was only doing them. He did say to me, "You're only doing about 200 metres. I'd done a K." I said, "I know, but you've got a few years on me and a bit more speed on me."
You can't take the competitiveness out of you.
No, I mean, and it's also the fun bit. That was why I was doing it. I wasn't trying to beat him. I was just trying to give him something to aim for in amongst a group and some of the others, but also just to make it more fun for me, because then you're actually doing something, a bit of change of pace instead of just running around.
Well, this is where it kind of apt to our guest coming up is actually what you've kind of touched upon as well. Is we're very fortunate now in the running world where you can wake up on a Saturday morning and you have the park runs. You have like almost ready-made meetups that you don't need to necessarily know you're going to meet a specific person. You're just going to be surrounded by a community of people where you can take your brain out, take your kind of eyesight out. We know what I mean by that with what you've said, and just run, and then find the little bits of fire, like you just said, increased pace, whatever it is. And there are communities of runners that are kind of set in stone, and it gives you that kind of time to get out the door. It takes away that will I, won't I, because you know this thing is happening at 9 a.m. in this particular park or wherever you are. And our guest coming up I think that's a big part of what he loves about running, is the community and running and interviewing on the go. And I think I just love the way that there are ways you can run or get 5 or 6 miles done and not realise you've done it.
Yeah,
because you're so focused
making
on
it
something
into a little bit of a play, which I mean is one thing that people can start putting in at week 5, isn't it? If they're kind of stuck on we talk about the speedier workouts, we talk about the long run and the steady recovery runs, and then something a bit quicker in race week. And if you bring in the speed play, which is fartlek, then it is a good way to do it. And of course, the most famous of those is the big groups of Kenyan athletes that will do it. And I can remember doing it as a kid when we would take turns at the front. And you get to pick the length of the distance.
I remember doing that.
It makes it a lot of fun, but it also is teaching you. It's teaching you to respond to surges in races. It's not just thrown in there by coaches just to make it fun for kids, is it? It is supposed to teach you to adjust to a surge that you don't know how long that person is going to keep their foot down for. And I can remember having a lot of fun on those sessions because you really don't know. You might be going for 100 metres or you could be going for 1,000 metres. I think we did have an upper and lower limit. Like you couldn't pick a too short one and you couldn't go for 5 miles. You had to have an upper limit as well. But within that, anyone who was at the front could pick it.
Well, when I did that as well, it's actually Dave Clark, the very legendary British World Cross. I think he has the record for the number of World Cross teams he's made in consecutive years. I think he went double figures. But we were on a training camp and he introduced that session. And one of the things I remember about that session, I always feared the person that I had the least skills comparable to. So what I mean by that is, if there was an 800 metre runner in that group, I worried about them being at the front because I know they're going to take off.
They're going to make it quick.
And so I would try and work to the weaknesses of the athletes behind. Which is why having a variety of skills within that group to kind of stretch each other in different ways based on length and speed and the unknown, it's just a very fun way to kind of, enjoy what you're doing, but also be stretched in a unknown way. But I know that session is great. It is great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so a lot of fun with doing that, and we will get into the interview with Rob in a little bit and kind of touch base on how he likes to have so much fun while I'm so impressed that he records his podcast while he's running.
Did you know? He's recorded the London Marathon his whole run with his fellow podcast.
I know. I wonder if we can do that. We can persuade Sharky to run with us and record, do producing it.
He'll find a way to do it. He'll find a way to sit in the studio. Yeah, he'll be in the studio going, "No, I've got a wireless connection. It's fine, guys. We won't." Yeah, but do you know what? It's. I think like talking and running is something that. On the surface of it can sound like an extra stress on the body, but actually the benefits from doing it can actually offset that massively.
I mean, I can see, like, my mind goes on all sorts of tangents when I'm running, so I can absolutely see how you get into deeper conversations and how things that you wouldn't think of just sat in a room come out when you're running. I mean, how many people go running with a mate and start discussing absolutely everything? I know I can put the world to rights on a run, can't you? Particularly if it's a really nice scenic run and your kind of mind goes off in all directions. So should we get into this chat with Rob then?
I'm looking forward to this one. Yeah, let's do it.
Welcome to the Run Club. This week's guest in Rob Deering, comedian, podcaster of two things which really fit with me, running commentary. You get that, Thommo?
Yeah, you kept
My
that
two
from us
jobs.
before we came on. Your joke you were going to fit
Only
in.
just
Well
popped
done.
into me when I just thought of it. I just saw it, wrote it down. I thought, oh yeah, running commentary. I like that. Rob Deering,
Yes.
also of course, multiple marathon runner and beyond. And a huge big welcome to this. You have actually even recorded a podcast while running the London Marathon, which I think is hugely impressive. And must have had lots of cameos around you.
Yeah, I think that my favourite thing about that. Hello, my favourite thing about our podcast of the whole London Marathon is the vibe we get into in the last sort of half hour, because it works. We're still podcasting, but in terms of, it's just a real insight into where your brain is at that point in the race, because we're much quieter and we're having a lot of trouble getting to the end of sentences, and it's a real kind of document of what it's like, that bit in the London Marathon when you kind of get to central London, and the almost that crossfade between being really tired but also you start to get carried along with that kind of gravity of the finish line.
I think it's magic to be able to capture that. I mean, technically and practically, how do you do it then? Do you just run with a phone? Is it that simple?
No,
Or do you have
that
to
was
carry the equipment?
kudos to our engineer, producer, Steve, because he helped us start running commentary 10 years ago. In fact, and it was really hard at the beginning because it's a very basic concept, because we run and chat while we're running. But technically it's very hard to pull off. But the basic principle is the way to do it is that we're not connected to each other. So each of us has got a big fluffy microphone so it doesn't get too windy, and we're recording, and then they're two completely discrete recordings, and in the end Steve just bonds them together. So, and like you say, we try and get as close as possible. Or another time when I was running London Marathon, I carried a stick mic, just to get all the other sound and all the other people and all the other excitement you get out on the course.
So you carried a stick mic for 26 miles?
Well, that was last year, and full disclosure,
You could
I
have
carried
put a
stick
pace
mic
flag
for...
on the top of it and done two jobs at once.
Yeah, that's true. But this was 2025, and actually I only carried it for 18 miles because I DNF'd last year. But that's a whole other
sorry.
story. No, it's okay. We're back. I'm back.
Good. So things are going well for this year.
Yeah, feeling good for this year actually. And it was a wake up call. I'll get straight into it for you, because I was supposed to do three marathons, three events last year, and it was London, Edinburgh Marathon, and Race to the King. And no, there was three. It was three marathons. It was London, Brighton, and Edinburgh, I think. Anyway, I fell over and hurt my ribs, so I cancelled Brighton. And I'd really missed the training for London, so I couldn't get round. But I was better, so that inspired me to train really hard, do this 4-week get fit enough top up for Edinburgh. And I was so strict about it. I felt that Edinburgh Marathon, which was my 26th marathon, so it wasn't like I hadn't done it before, but it was the first one in years really where I felt like my training had me ready for the whole distance, that I wasn't just hanging on for the last 4-6 miles, So in the end, that DNF led to quite a good place training wise.
That's one of the things I love about running in itself. It's like even in disaster, you can find something amazing that wouldn't have happened as a positive in hindsight. I just wanted to ask you that you've got quite an interesting intro into running in terms of what it's done for you and how it opened things up, because we're talking almost like about you recording filming a marathon, but it wasn't like you just woke up and thought I'm going to do it. You kind of, this relationship with running and the things that came of it kind of started, was it 2008 you said?
Yeah, absolutely. I had a New Year's resolution in 2008, which was like a health tip, which I always tried to do. I was pretty unhealthy and I was quite a big guy. And in 2008, I had a kind of basically try and get fit, try and lose a bit of weight, New Year's resolution. And it just really took. And I lost a lot of weight. I had a lot of weight to lose, and I did. And so by summer 2008, I was kind of 75% of the size I'd been to that point in my life. And at this point, I was about 35 years old. So, it was a very new year, new me. And that September, I went to, it wasn't even then I wasn't thinking about running. I went to a gym, and part of the induction was, and then go on the treadmill and do some walking and running. And the very fact that I could do that I could go on a treadmill for kind of 10 minutes and walk and run and survive that, and even quite enjoy it, was like, oh, this is something. And then, so September 2008, I went out for a run outside around my local parks with some headphones on for music and stuff, and it was just an absolute epiphany. I was like, well, I really like this. And actually, that thing where you run and walk, which obviously is great training, particularly when you're getting into running and stuff, I was fit enough at that point to let it go and to just run and to just kind of unlock. We're talking, I think I was running about 5K at that point. And the fact that I could go out of my door and do 5K and listen to music and then get home again, it was literally the beginning of the rest of my life. It was so huge. And I said to myself, I'm going to run 3 times a week. And everything I've done since is built on that. I've run much further. I started running with Paul. We started doing the podcast, started running events for charity, which of course is massively inspiring in terms of training and achieving, but it all began, from losing a couple of stone in 2008.
So you didn't lose the weight through running. You actually lost it before you ran. So it's almost like you lost weight and then ran.
Yeah, absolutely. When that first happened, a few friends of mine, because a lot of people knew me how I was before I lost weight, and everyone assumed that I'd lost weight through running. And I'm sure that works for some people, but no, it totally wasn't that way around at all.
Blimey. So what? I was going to say, but the other thing as well, you say, because that's one of the things I love about running is like it breeds other things or good habit or whatever. But one of the other big things you've done is you've raised a heck of a lot of money for Parkinson's UK, haven't you? And so, and done a lot of good through that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, again, something that my sort of life led me towards, because I was already doing that. My dad had Parkinson's, and also specifically, I often say this, but it's true. It's not just that he had Parkinson's. The first thing he did when he got his diagnosis, because he was pretty young when he got his diagnosis. He wasn't that much older than me. I think he was 59 when he got diagnosed with Parkinson's. And he immediately volunteered for his local Parkinson's charity. And so as much, I was inspired by his actions as much by his condition, you know what I mean? And I was already doing that. Again, that existed before the running, because I really love a quiz. I'm good at quizzes. So I'd done the weakest link for Parkinson's UK. And then I started doing, I can't remember exactly what time it was, but I think I went to Parkinson's UK and said, how about I run a half marathon or a marathon? In fact, I said, I'll do a half marathon, see how it goes, and then do a marathon. And they said, yeah, but you're a comedian as well. Why don't we do a comedy night? And for the next 10 years, it was trying to do quizzes on TV and raise money for them, setting up our annual comedy night and doing it in a variety of places and a variety of ways, and more running. And just all this stuff, I say the comedy, the quizzes, and having an audience, having a platform, and being into running. I'm just, it's been perfect for me, because it just suits almost everything I do,
And the reason that you developed the running commentary podcast, because you actually record that while you're running, don't you? And is that because you and Paul find that because Thommo and I have talked about this, and we've talked about it with lots of people that have been on the podcast. Often when you're running, your mind goes, and you can just let it go, and you become more creative. Is that one of the reasons why you kind of do that on the run, because you can go down more avenues that maybe wouldn't open up if you weren't actually running?
Exactly that. We wanted the podcast to be quite we do all different lengths and all different things now, but initially the idea was that it's a long form thing, because when you go for a run, your brain has that capacity to completely unlock, and sometimes that's a very ascetic thing, isn't it? You just end up reducing it right down. You're just running. And other times you spiral out into grand thoughts about nothing. And I think particularly looking at it now, talking about these early days, and I always ran on my own. I always listened to music. I didn't have any sense of running with other people, let alone a community or talking to other people about running, what they were doing. I mean, I had that new runners imposter syndrome. I was like, oh no, those are the real runners, so I'll just do what I'm doing over here. And then sort of almost out of complicated politeness, I ended up running with a couple of comedians, and one of them was Paul. and he lived near me, and we said, "Oh, let's go for a run." And it was him who was saying, "Yeah, after you've run for a little while, chatting." And I think it ties in with, it's like running on your own. You just your brain widens out. And we just found that we, after a given amount of time, once we kind of warmed up and kind of almost forgotten about the miles, you start to be either more philosophical or more silly or just more, well, literally open-minded. It's like when you run on your own to help your day, you can have some fantastic thoughts, but they're always big thoughts. It's always blue sky thinking. It's never like a to-do list, So yeah, on the podcast, we are trying to access that. And whether that is ridiculousness or absolute wisdom, we don't mind, wherever the brain goes, that's what we're trying to document.
Do you find yourself, post run, or like when you doing comedy, do you find yourself being funnier post running?
Post run, I don't know. I think that
or during run,
or during. Well, just in terms of the way when you talk about setting up, because I think, Paula, you often use a run to set yourself up for the day, and you're more alert. And Rick said that on the podcast, and I definitely feel more aligned with my own thoughts, and I feel like I can perform better. So it's the question around, do you feel that kind of endorphin rush of performance post-run that kind of aligns you and feels like you perform better in life as a result as well?
Yeah, I think exactly that. I think that when I finished a run, I feel like I perform better in life, and that helps my comedy. But I don't think it makes me immediately, I don't come off a run thinking, I got jokes!
No, I think it's more just, I think for me, it's more like a clarity. I think that's what, and I guess it goes back to when I was a kid and I was studying, and I was studying for A-levels and things. And if I couldn't solve something because I did maths, then I'd go for a run. And in the middle of the run, I'd be like, I know how to do it now. And then go back. So it's more kind of like that opening up. And I just find that I'm more open to different areas of thought. And I guess that's the same thing. So yeah, it's not going to be, I'm suddenly really funny. I don't think I would get really funny even if I carried on running and running and running. Thommo might. Thommo thinks he would.
See how far you have to go. I mean, in terms of within the run, because we do the podcast and we are comedians, we do sometimes get very silly, and get comedy out of things that never would have become comedy if we were just sitting. But I totally agree. It's just a kind of focusing thing, isn't it? And it makes you feel more in touch with yourself. That's why sometimes I'm tempted to feel guilty about spending the daytime running when I'm supposed to be being, I don't know, a comedian or a writer or whatever. But it always helps, doesn't it? It helps with everything else. The running just improves your overall output. So when you get to your other work, even if it's nothing to do with running, the running helps with it, definitely.
It sounds, I don't know whether you can identify with this, Rob, but I feel like, but we're all kind of at the core of us quite silly. We're all kids, really. We stay kids at heart for a long time. So I feel like running helps me not take myself too seriously. I kind of take away some of that kind of seriousness that life can offer through a run. And so I go back to the core of just being a silly young boy growing up in a world trying to figure things out. And I think that's kind of it. To answer the point where, Paula, it doesn't make me funnier. It just makes me take myself less serious, I guess.
Yeah, it gives you perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that is really important. I mean, we have a lot of listeners, Rob, getting ready for the London Marathon, as you are. We're doing the road to London, so we're now 5 weeks in, and we're kind of setting the basics down in terms of what works for you in the week, in terms of long runs and just the setup and being able to make it work around your lifestyle so it's sustainable all the way through to London. But one of the things that we haven't really talked a lot about yet, have we, Thommo, is coping techniques. So when things get tough, what do you go to kind of get you through and not trust that you're going to come through that bad patch basically and out the other side, and practicing it in training? Do you have one of those, or do you turn to people around you?
I would say I've got two things that help with that situation. I think one is just the knowledge when you're training and when you're particularly training a marathon specifically, is up when you're upping that mileage. You get to a point where you think, oh my God, I'm feeling this now, and it can happen at any point. It's to do with not with a specific distance, but with a greater distance than the week before or the run before. And I think that the first thing that really works for me is to just flip it and think, good. That when you're training for a marathon, if something makes you feel like the running is tough, you know that you're getting beyond your power. So if you're feeling really fit and you can go out and run 10k at a good pace, and you go out and run 10k at a good pace and you come back, great, well done, you've just done a lovely run. But if you go out and you're training and you get to like the 11th mile of a 13-mile run and you think, oh my goodness, I don't feel good at all, I always say to myself, good, you're digging into the training. This is what marathon running is like. And Paul, I'm sure, would say, we always say on the podcast, that in marathon training you're seeking that. Sooner or later, when you do a marathon, unless you're very lucky, you're going to feel like you're up against the edge of your power, that you're tired, that you've got a long way to go. And if you can access that in training, it's psychological practice for the process, and there's ways like you can trick this. You can actually fake this up. I'm the kind of person, everyone has got their favorite time of day for a run. Sometimes my training schedule means I have to go for a run, like, I don't know, in the late afternoon, say, and I always feel so sluggish and so heavy, and basically like I've already done a run. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of several miles in. And I always think that's great now, because now I'm making myself feel like I'm near the end of the marathon and I've only
Simulated
gone 2 miles.
toughness.
Exactly. So I think that accessing that and just basically looking directly into the lens of running while it's difficult is in itself good training. So that's one thing. But I think the second thing, which is a huge thing in my life and kind of counter to doing the podcast, is I get that all different people run, but I love running with music. It really works for me, and it's my brain model. It's some people, it's anathema to them. Why would you run with music? You're just getting out there, you're in the world, it's pure, you're just out. And I totally get that. But for me, to access that very thing, I need music. If I haven't got music on, I'm thinking, oh, wait a minute, my shoes, I can hear my feet. I'm just fussing and just stuck in, kind of locked into my body. Whereas if I've got music on, it enables what you were talking about, that open-mindedness. And then I start to appreciate the world I'm in and the sky and the nature, and just generally lift up. It's more transcendent that way. And then when running gets really hard, I just start to DJ a bit harder. Like I've done that during the London Marathon itself, and obviously that's not a great time to be training for it. It's a little bit late in the day. But I can't remember what it was. I think, anyway, one of the marathons, I was literally, coming along the embankment. I saw this is a bit tough and I need a good song. And I flicked on, and there's always a song that will inspire you. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes you've got to go, no, not this one, not this one, not this one, not this one. Normally the next song for me inspires me, but sometimes you have to go flick through, but there's always one that makes you think, oh yeah, this. And it gives you that moment, which I think, for me, music helps me with that. But again, that's a factor you're looking for. I think that, this is maybe into longer runs and into the event. But I think if you're on a very long run and you're thinking, oh, this is bad, or this is hard, one way or another, one thing to look for is the little jump, the little change of perspective that reminds you that kind of leaning into that misery is sort of a decision, and you can go another way. You can forget about it. I remember once I was running, and I was quite early on with hills. I was quite scared of hills. And I just got to the bottom of a really quite steep hill, and I was running slow, but I was still running, just plodding up this hill. And I thought, oh, this is going to be tough. I'm going to hang in there right to the top. And I basically just forgot to think like that. And I got to the top and thought, oh, I ran up the hill. It's okay. Because my brain just got distracted. Or I was doing a marathon once, and it was the Yorkshire Marathon, and there was a Channel 4 crew, and they wanted to interview me. This was at about 21 miles, and I was on my way to my PB. I was deep. I was really in the zone, and there was a guy in the back of a motorbike trying to get a soundbite off me on the microphone, and I ran along, just kind of giving me this friendly, like, please leave me alone. I really didn't want to do it. And they were tenacious. So in the end, I thought, oh, okay then. And I, you know, took my headphone out and I went, oh, and they said, how's it going? And I basically said, great interview. You know, they got some good stuff. But I put my headphone back in. And so it was a waste of time for them. But actually, it kind of saved the day. Because when I put my headphone back in and the motorbike drove away, I kind of couldn't access the miserable place I'd been in before. It just changed things up, you know. So I think anything that can change things up for you when you're deep in that run, that kind of tunnel of, oh, I'm not enjoying this, you can change it. You can make it disappear. And for me, music is the best way to do that.
What would be an example of a tune that would flip? Is it has to be a type of genre type, or is it like you said, you kind of flick until you find the one in that moment that just works?
Yeah. Is it the beat or the lyrics?
Yeah, I think I'm really massively into the concept that it's really diverse. You know, you can any tune could be a great running tune. I mean, I think that obviously, beats are amazing. I think the quintessential running tune is something with a good, fast beat and also quite long, but inspiring all the way, so it can really pull you forward. You know, just before I spoke to you this morning, I was listening to I Feel Love by Donna Summer. You know, it's classic pop. It's got a stomping beat, and it's also like 8 minutes long. So by the time you've listened to it, you've covered a bit of ground, you know. So that's a quintessential running song. And then you can lean into, like you say, one of the lyrics and stuff, you know, something that sounds, I don't know. I remember hearing Wake Up by Rage Against the Machine during the Brighton Marathon once. And that was pretty inspiring, you know, to have someone saying, wake up into your ears, you know. It's like, okay, I will. But, you know, sometimes it's completely the other way. Just something, I don't know, like a really gentle aria or something incredibly sad. Something that in the cold light of day you think, well, that's no good for running. But it does that thing I was just describing of just distracting you, of just taking you to a different place.
And do you think sometimes it takes you to a place specifically? I guess I'm going somewhere with this. Sometimes, like, you hear a song and it reminds you of a time and place in your life, and that being back there can kind of help you get through the moment. Or conversely, a song might come out of nowhere, get you through a moment in the marathon, and you never would have thought it would help you. But in future, when you hit a difficult bit, that becomes your go-to.
It will remind you of that moment at that particular time. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's connected to what you're saying, because like we can choose the beats and you can choose the lyrics, but you still want it to kind of take you by surprise, because that's what gives you that little jump. And I think you're completely right. I was going to tell you about some songs I heard during my first ultra, but I just reminded that when my kids were small, I absolutely loved. We loved. This is. I'm going to try and get to this because it's pretty arcane stuff. But we loved Madagascar 3, Europe's Most Wanted, which has got a sequence with Firework by Katy Perry, and where they're in the circus, and it's so beautiful. Okay. And I thought, I'm going to listen to that. I'll put it on my marathon playlist, and when that comes out, I'm just going to zoom on. It's going to be amazing, you know. Anyway, I put it on the playlist. It was a long playlist. I did the marathon. It didn't even play. I was like, that's a shame. I was going to enjoy. That was going to be my big inspiration. You know, that's the whole plan. Anyway. I was running not long after the marathon, in the recovery period. I was completely on my own, running around an old dock in Cardiff, and this Firework came on by Katy Perry, and I thought, this is it. This is what I would have had during the marathon, and my kids would have been there, like beyond the barrier, and everyone would have been cheering me on, and it would have been. And then before I knew it, I was sobbing next to this old dock in Cardiff, and I thought, well, maybe it's for the best I didn't hear it during the marathon. Because I'd have been kind of on my knees going, So, you know, you can't plan it too hard. But when I did the Race to the Stones in 2022, it was quite intentional that it was a bit of a kind of pilgrimage in memory of my dad, particularly as, you know, we've talked about his running for him and to do with his Parkinson's right through the last 20 years of his life. He died in 2019. So this was after lockdown. It was a few years later. But the Race to the Stones goes from the area of Oxfordshire where he lived in the last years of his life, and to a place, very spiritual and wonderful anyway, and also a place I'd visited with him when we were little, and right through where he used to work and stuff. So it was like this dad pilgrimage was completely this geography. And you were saying about music, you have it with geography as well. It can really kind of inspire you where you are, what it means to you, And on that run, when a song came through that I knew that Dad loved and sort of was relevant to the story, it just absolutely set me off. It was brilliant. What was Take the Long Way Home by Supertramp. I heard quite early on, actually, on the Race to the Stones, and that was like, wow, this is a big emotional moment. And it just, you can get 10k out of that, just the firing up of it. And then much later on, I think on the second day, I was right in the middle of nowhere, and I heard some music. This is a good example of something very obscure, but just really catching the moment, because it was from the Gravity soundtrack. But it was something that it actually sounds a bit like the theme from the BBC News, but that's another story. It's a piece of music that my son introduced me to, because they're big into film music and stuff. And I just heard that and thought of them and just felt this, just kind of surfing off it, really. It's transcendent. And again, it's more complicated than lifting you out of the running, because you're still running, you're still moving forward. You're not thinking about your feet anymore.
It's just guiding you, I guess. But this Race to the Stone, so you mentioned the second day. How many days was it? How far is the
2-day 100k? And
wow.
I think that I was still, I'm always naive about my running. And I think if at the point I was at, fitness-wise and stuff, I might have been, I think a more a more proper runner than me would have said, "Oh, you could do the 100k in one day. Go for that." But I heard that they had this thing where you go to the base camp and sleep over, and they put the tent up and stuff. And I thought, "Oh, do that. That would be lovely." And so that was great, because I think that from a fitness point of view, I might have aimed higher. But I did it, and it was just the most wonderful thing. So it was 50k, sleep a night, and another 50k.
And how was that, getting up the next morning?
It was wonderful, actually. It was the second day Paul Tompkinson was there too, but he didn't. It was my thing, and he said, "I'll come too." And he hadn't done as much training as he should have done. He got to the end of day one and said, "Yeah, I'm in the right state." And his wife came and got him, and he pulled out and he went home. And that was sorry, Paul, to talk about that, but it kind of showed me that I didn't feel that way at all. And actually there was a kind of golden moment in the middle there. We got to this place, there was friends of the podcast, I got in my normal clothes, I obviously ate a ridiculous amount of fueling food. It was a mashed potato festival. I had a few beers. It was like going to a festival, but obviously in the middle of 100k. And then the next day it was very, very hot, and they actually pulled the allowable start time forward. It was supposed to start anytime from 7, and they said you can go from 6 because it's going to be hot out there today. But I can't get up and run like in the morning. I just need to sort my life out, and so I hung around, got myself ready, drank loads of coffee, went to the bathroom, all this stuff. So when I set off on that second day, and I felt good, I just felt warmed up by the first day. And I think that I'd gone through that fear of, I'd worked through my fear of the event in training, because I was so scared that I trained very hard and very carefully, which gave me real confidence. I think it wasn't that many weeks since I'd done 2 20-mile runs on consecutive days on trail. So that really helped my confidence with this. Anyway, I set off on the second day and everyone had gone. So it was just me running through the Cotswolds, listening to skylarks and just plodding on and thinking I can do this. And I found a real strength. There's a very long, straight, chalky path. I think it's 6-7 miles of chalky path, just going like a rail, and I thought, well, there's no distraction here, there's no corners, there's no turns, there's no checkpoint or anything. You've got to run this. And I was like, yes, I'm going to run this, and it was like that all day long. And then there's a big hill. I got to the top of the hill, I got to the checkpoint, I got out the last checkpoint at about 88k, and I was running down a hill by Barbary Castle, and just a friendly person watching us all go past, because I was catching people up by now because there's walkers and things. I went past this guy and he said, "Oh, well done, you're still running." And I said, without thinking about it too hard, I said, "You get there quicker if you run." And that's just where my head was at, So it was really beautiful. It was very special.
And that must have definitely helped then going back to the marathon. The marathon must feel like not a sprint, but much, much easier after you've kind of gone through something like the ultra. Was that your first ultra?
It was my first ultra. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I did long training runs before that, but I'd never done an official ultra until that, and went straight in on the 100k. So yeah, probably quite good that I did it in 2 days.
Really?
Because I'm interested, because you say, like, when you obviously you train quite hard and you kind of push that, you lean into those kind of difficult things to kind of prepare you. Do you structure training as well, or is it about time on feet? Like, how do you go about that?
I think that I've got a lot more. The thing with my training is that I did actually follow the threshold training plan for the Race of the Stones, and it was brilliant. But that was very unusual for me to follow a training plan, because I didn't come to this through being into sports or training or anything like that. I just haven't got. Don't speak the language of training, you know what I mean? So when people start to abbreviate and say, I did this and it was 2 times 30 and then I have 30 seconds rest and then I did all this, I can't even get my head around that stuff. So I always have this, I train quite carefully and quite hard, but it's quite sort of jazzy, and in that I improvise. A, I make it all up myself, and B, I follow my nose to when it happens. Like people always say, "Oh, I've missed my long Sunday run." It's like, well, I did a long run on one of the days of the week,
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I do know that I need to do a long run. So I put together all the things. What are all the things? I'm upping my mileage by increments each week. I've got I target my 10-mile run, my 13-mile run, my 16-mile run, my 20-plus mile run on the route to a marathon. And then within each week, particularly as I get older and more experienced, generally I'm not running particularly fast, but I always go to park run. And I often do a little bit of sort of tempo running some point earlier in the week, or hill reps. So I mix it up in that way, but I keep an eye on what I'm doing. So it's definitely
I was going to say, you've definitely
making it dynamic.
Got the basics in there. You've got all the main ingredients in there, and I'm probably right in saying that you don't make a huge focus on times either. There are different goals that you have for the marathon races in terms of amount raised or just what your journey is along that route, and that's why the training is less tailored towards specific performance and more to make sure that you just get an enjoyable experience out there. We don't have a lot of time left, but one of the things that I really wanted to ask you, given that you spend a lot of time kind of making other people laugh, is there something in all of your experiences in these ultras, even park runs or in the marathon itself, what is the funniest thing that you've seen? Not from you, or not from Paul either. So from somebody around you in the event.
Wow, that's a good question. I'm trying to think of something good. I just think that this is really dark, but it's the first thing I thought of, and I've got to stay with it.
I love it. Do it.
For me, I've done lots of marathons. I've been around the world, much in the manner of Lisa Stansfield, and I particularly love the Yorkshire Marathon, which I've done a lot of times. The Brighton Marathon I've done several times, but of course, it always comes back to the London Marathon. It's such an incredible event in every way. And the hilarious thing I found out about it, and I suppose I still think most people could have this realization that I had. As I say, when I did it, I think I first did it in 2011. I hadn't been running that long. I didn't know any other runners. Luckily, I trained quite hard. I was all right. But I went off very, very, very fast. And I did say, and then end up sort of suffering in the last 40 minutes, but pressing on because I was still on for a good time because I'd done it so stupidly fast. And I got there and I said, never again. And I really meant it. So the fact that I'm 27 marathons in is ridiculous. Anyway, my realization is that all those people out there, particularly people you see on TV, on TV, you see you guys smashing it and breaking world records, and then you see people dressed as daffodils going, "Yay!" That's what you get, at London Marathon. And I just suddenly realised when I was there that the people in doing charity, either just silly costumes or specifically difficult things like carrying a fridge or whatever it might be, and they always look happy on the TV, and in the event they're really unhappy. And there's that, and there's that sense of seeing. I think in that era there were so many Elsas, so many men running dressed up as Elsa, and then as the time, so then there'll be a camera, so they're going, "Hey, let it go," and then once they've gone past the camera, you see the tears and the suffering, the blood coming through the costume, and that kind of juxtaposition is I'm sorry to say it, but that is hilarious to me.
Oh, that is very good.
So the two sides of the marathon, isn't it? There's kind of the external face of it, and then there's the internal, but it kind of gets mixed up in the marathon because at some point, whatever you actually feel is going to come out.
Yes,
and
exactly.
Those emotions do come pouring out. It's one of the reasons that I love the finish line, because that's where it really dawns on people that they've done it, and the kind of final remnants of the wall that's holding everything together just come flying apart, and all of those emotions come flying out. It is the best
moment
place.
You cross the line, it's like a change, isn't it? It's like you either go into or you come out of the spell, and you're like, oh wait a minute. Oh.
It's also it's like you said at the top of the interview about the last 30 minutes. There's that kind of collapsing across the line, but there's also that kind of that strange, and I'm gonna go a little bit dark on this as well with what you said about crying Elsas, of that build up to the fact you're about to achieve something, so you're kind of there, and it's like you're teetering. I can only compare it to needing a toilet on a motorway, and you need to get off at the station, and you see 5 miles to the services, and then there's a relief, but there's that build up going, I know I'm going to get there, I know I'm going to feel good, and it just becomes more and more kind of intense, but you haven't completed it because you can't let go until you finish, because if you do let go, you'll wet your pants or on the service station car, or you'll fall on the floor. So it's like you're kind of there's that golden period just before the finish of will you, won't you, you will, and it's that kind of almost tease, and then that, like you say, that finish line feeling is incredible. But I think that, and I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong, Paula, but like for you, like when you're coming up to that world record, that feeling of will you, won't you is the same for everyone. So whether you are about potentially going to break a world record or get round for the first time or get a personal best or complete it, that kind of will you, won't you feeling in those last 10 minutes, we all share it. We all share
Definitely.
that kind of
we've
feeling.
all had those times when you don't quite get there, or you think you've done it before you've got there, and then it all falls apart. So you have to keep concentrating. And it's also the fact that that it's possible and it's within reach is what's keeping you going as well. So that's the thing I think I'm trying to say is when it feels like it's all falling apart and you are just holding on, remember you are just holding on because somewhere deep inside your body, it knows it can do it. Otherwise, it wouldn't be putting you in that situation. So I think, keeping that confidence, the bottom line confidence. And that's what happens is people they think I can. And then they cross the line. I knew I could. And they didn't until they crossed the line. It just comes flying through, but you almost don't dare believe because somewhere deep down, you can. But if you say, oh yeah, I know I can, then it might not happen. So you've got to it's a bit like tempting fate, isn't it? I think you've got to keep holding it all together.
I feel like I have to cite Paul Togerson at this point because that's what we've been talking about, because he's been writing about his Marathon des Sables, and he wrote previously about doing his sub 3 hour marathon. And, often people don't run and say, oh, that feeling. And we are, obviously the finish line is huge and it's what we're talking about. But people think that's it, that's where the drama is. But when you're doing something particularly that's beyond anything you've ever done before, like for me, that 100k, for Paul, the sub 3, there's a moment in a run earlier on when you think it's what you're talking about. You think, I can do this. I'm going to do this. And that in itself is not a happy thought. It's a scary thought. That's the point where you realise you've got to hold on. You're going to ride this. It can be quite early on. I remember Paul saying that straight after his sub 3, and wherever it was probably 20, 21 miles. And he said, I realised I was going to make it. And it wasn't a happy thought. It was that I am going to hold on to this and fight through and get to that final point.
It's a pressure thought, isn't it? But it's still a positive thought. It's just a bit scary because it's a big one.
But it's scary. It's scary because you don't want to. You've got it in your hand and you don't want to let it go.
Yeah,
it's like exactly that. It's like you can almost touch it and smell it, but you still have a job to do.
Yeah.
I know, I'm sure you need me to go, but you get this a lot in comedy. Stand-up comedy has a real comparison to this, which is when you have we go out there, we're funny, the people want it to be funny, it's a great situation. But on the other hand, the sense is it's a gig, you've got to kind of win it, you've got to get out there, prove you're funny and be funny, and then have the audience go, oh, you're funny, that was great. And that's the basic model. Sometimes I think in a combination of being on form, being a good comedian, and the audience being absolutely lovely, you start in and the comedy gig goes amazingly well, like from very early on, like from the first few minutes, and then your job at hand changes completely, because what you've got to do is not mess this up. You just got to keep that plate spinning in the air, and like you say, it's just as much of a problem, it's just a different problem. But luckily, we're all really fast and hilarious, so everybody wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Or not. Luckily, we can run, because if we're not fast and funny and hilarious, then we have to run instead.
Yeah,
but you can combine the two.
And it's okay if I think I can run and think I'm funny. It's fine.
Yeah. Kind of just pull it together.
Yeah.
Just keep believing, Thommo.
Yeah, this has been awesome. Thank you so much,
It has been
Rob.
so good. Thank you so much, Rob. Very best of luck in all the rest of your preparation. Please don't forget to give me a wave when you turn on the mall and you head up towards the finish. Come across and give us a wave in the commentary booth there. Thommo will be in Manchester, so you have to wave down the lens to him.
Excellent. I'll see you then.
Thank you so much, Rob,
Thank you so much. Well, that was funny, Thommo. We knew it would be, didn't we? We knew it was going to be a funny one and a big highlight to listen to. I think he downplays the amount that he has raised to challenge. So for his challenges and what he's done over the years. So I'm just going to start off by underlining that he is hoping to break that 200k marker of amount that he's raised for Parkinson's UK in a really cool way with his Coast to Coast, which is following Wainwright's path. He said it goes from St Bede's in Cumbria across to Robin Hood Bay, which is near Whitby. So crosses the country that way, 180 miles. They will be recording running commentary all the way. So that will be in the summer, around the summer solstice, so middle to end of June. So he will be out there doing that. Get out there and support him and see if we can bump him over that 200k and through it and beyond it, because I think thoroughly funny guy, and I love the way that running has become so much to him.
Yeah, I didn't anticipate a man dressed as Elsa crying on my bingo card. It just, but this is the thing. Like I think that's kind of what I was trying to say in the interview, is like sometimes you just got to not take things too seriously sometimes. And I think he epitomizes that through, not just through his comedy and life and running, and how running has kind of sparked so many different directions. And I love those little phrases he used, like following his nose or leaning into the challenge, because I think sometimes that idea of smashing a wall, or that kind of marathon wall, and I think it's quite intimidating, the thought of smashing it, but leaning into it sounds a lot more like, let's just accept the challenge before we start worrying if we can do it. And I like the way he kind of used that language.
Definitely. I mean, it reminded me of I watched the Boston Indoor Championships at the weekend, and I don't know if you watched it, but Elle St Pierre ran really, really well in her return back from having a baby. And one of the things that she said was that she had learned to lean into it through going through childbirth, and that had really helped to kind of lean into it in the race, because it's not that bad in the race, and so there's also a happy outcome at the end of it, and that had helped her with that process. But I mean, how many Elsas out there do we think are now rethinking that costume? Go with Olaf instead.
Yeah, well, you're a step ahead of me when it comes to Frozen, then, because I'm aware of the show, and I've never watched it. No, well, Well, he's still too young. He won't sit there and watch. But I will. It did remind me of when I was growing up, when he's talking about music and stuff, that the soundtrack I used to listen every time on my way to training with my mum when she used to drive me 15 minutes to Aldershot when I was a kid. We'd always listen to the Lion King soundtrack, and that was like every Tuesday and Thursday. And to the point now where, and I won't do it, like my party trick is like doing the kind of Be Prepared song and doing the monologue between Scar and the hyenas, and it's like I get quite animated because it's all rooted from when I was a kid of listening to it and just enjoying that kind of animated fun, and then going running. It just sort of, it was just that moment that my mum and me would share on the way to training, and it was awesome.
And those memories, it's like for us, I think particularly for me, when I started running, I couldn't run with music. I mean, I can remember having a go at you when you were at uni running with music because you were carrying a big CD player around in your hand, which isn't really that practical. It was a bit stupid for somebody trying to train. So I can remember we used to rip that out of your hand and say, no, Tommy, you've got to run without it. But it was never something that we could. But what we did do was compile tapes. I know this is going to people, young kids are going to listen to this and go, really?
I did this.
What are you
I know
talking
where you're
about?
going. I did
You
this,
compiled tapes that you played on the bus. So when the bus is going to the races, then we're all listening to, and we'd all bring our own mixers, and that's where those memories kind of come from. And every so often now, a song will come on, and I will just remember the whole bus singing at the top of its voice as we kind of move. Not the actual bus, obviously, the people on the bus, as we're going towards the race. And it is those memories that it triggers. And that's what I thought was really cool, listening to Rob talk about how those memories come up associated to songs and to places as well.
I think that's the thing, that it's so important in this day and age that that we find this common moments to share. Like you say, on the bus, like my fond memories of going to trips is we're all listening to the same song. We're not individually listening to our own. We're all listening to the same song. We had this game where we would listen to music, and also had this 5-second game where we would try and stop the watch on 5 seconds, and it would be a knockout competition with the whole coach till we get heads up. But everyone was engrossed, and we also did it with paper, scissors, stone, all these games, and it's music and just the camaraderie and the fun. But you're all kind of, the coach is all one. We're not, and it's just like you say, those songs and those games just. And it's all wrapped up around the fact that you're on your way to a race or coming back from a race. The running is the common kind of reason to all be there, but you have things within that kind of make it just so special. And
it's distraction as well, isn't it? And coming together as a team. We used to do it to a minute. I never thought of doing it to 5 seconds. You must have rattled through it a lot quicker.
Oh, we changed it. We had we sometimes it was the 3-second game, sometimes it was the 5-second. We even went 10-second game. We realised that took a bit long because each round took roughly 10 seconds. But
if it was a long bus journey, though.
Yeah, but it's you know what, the two rules where you obviously couldn't look at the watch, so you had to do it without looking at the watch, and then it was obviously closest to it, but if you got it spot on, obviously you automatically through and stuff. But anyway,
I've got a new one now for everyone out there. I'm throwing out this challenge. I want people to stop their Garmin before they hit the mile, but right on the mile, as close to the mile as possible. But it can't be after, because obviously you've already heard the beep then.
Oh, I see.
But you're not looking. You've got to guess.
I see. So take the split off.
You need to know in your head. There's a purpose to training that. But we're now on to your challenge. We want, as Rob did, your funniest story. If it can be training, can be competition. 1 minute to tell it to us.
Okay, so I was on a group run with a few of us. So I was actually with Gemma and a few other teammates when I was based in America, and we were on a bit of a long run, and we went down this path, and we weren't exactly sure where we were exactly, and we ended up in this kind of opening where there was let's just say there was a few kind of meetups. Like, it was a bit of a nudist beach, and so there was a few massages going on, a few people kind of casually walking around, like obviously not wearing much, and we were a bit like, oops, we've kind of, obviously we're in sports kit, so we're sort of semi kind of not fully covered up.
You didn't fit in.
We didn't fit exactly. We didn't fit in. And we thought, okay, we better make our way back. So we kind of left people to their massages and their kind of whatever they're doing. And as we left, it was kind of a single road in. And it was just this surreal moment as we were running back out from where we came, that this gentleman was walking towards us completely naked, just carrying his briefcase. And it was just this kind of moment where we locked eyes and just nodded at each other. He goes, "Oh, you all right?" Have a good day, mate. He's just obviously off to his. But it was just like, it's obviously a place where people go to have their nudist bits. But I was, we were a bit out of our depth and was like, oh, sorry, yeah, better go back this way. But yeah, it was very funny. But it was, we kind of, we didn't go regularly back there, should we say?
You would have been overdressed, so you can't go back there.
Well, I have to say, I didn't go back. I can't speak for my other teammates. They might have thought, oh, yeah, okay, that's a fun thing to do in an afternoon. But yeah, there's a lot of sort of nudist areas around there where I've been. There's one in Zurich along the canal as well where I've been over there. But yeah,
There's parts in Berlin as well. Can be. I can
yes.
remember doing the Berlin Diamond League, or when it was the Golden League, and going for a run and getting lost and ending up in the wrong bit of the park.
There was what was
You just
that?
run quickly and move out.
Well, yeah. If you run too quick naked, things might hurt. But there was what was the show with Rob Brydon that I was saying about, the travelling one, and there was a nudist beach or they were barbecuing while, and it was like because it's a bit of a thing there. But yeah. So, not for me.
No, and you ran quickly enough to get out of it.
Well, it was for me, the funniest bit was when I was running away and the guy with the briefcase, obviously it's completely normal. It's just the way we just sort of nodded, right, have a good day, yep, you have a good one. And on he went to work.
Anyway, minute challenge, you did it in a minute 10.
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. With a few questions. There you go. I'm getting better.
It was good.
We won't mention that.
We won't mention how many takes it took to get to that.
Yeah, exactly.
And now it is time to drop in and catch up with what are we going to call you, Charlotte? Our fresher, our newbie marathon runner. How are things going for you?
Good, yeah. I've actually had a bit of a setback this week. I've got shin splints. I had them, I think, about a year ago, and they were fine, but obviously they've come back as I've increased training. I've been to the physio and I've been told to take a week off running. So it's a bit upsetting, but like it's fine. And I've been on the bike, I've been on the Stairmaster, I've basically been doing everything I can that's not running, to try and keep the training going, but obviously not too much stress through the shins. But yeah, it's how it is.
I was going to say, have you icing it at all?
I've been icing it pretty much any opportunity I can. I've been using deep freeze, I've been trying to massage, I've been doing the stretches, basically doing everything I can to just keep the pain manageable. And then I'm going for another physio appointment this week to see if it's helped, and hopefully it'll be a slow return to running and not another week of sitting on a bike, because I don't really enjoy it.
Yeah, I mean, have you ever had it, Thommo, shin splints?
I would say, because I would put shin splints on a continuum. It's not like you fully have it or don't. It's kind of like I kind of had that sort of beginnings of it before it got really bad, because it's kind of, if you get what I mean by that continuum kind of thing, it's like a bit of a stress fracture. It's not like it fractures overnight, it builds up. So I've had the beginnings, and it is trying to get that muscle to play ball with the shin or teasing it off. So Charlotte, I would say, kind of, when you massage, rather than necessarily going up and down, a good thing to do is trying to sort of gently pull the muscle away from the bone a bit. So just tease it open with your fingers rather than kind of an up and down motion along the shin, because going up and down can sometimes be a little irritating for like a shin splints type thing.
Yeah. No, because I used to do that with the ice cup. I used to stick yogurt cups of water in the freezer, and then they freeze like that, so you've got kind of a cup shape, which is quite nice to fit around your shin bone and kind of pull away from the shin bone. So you are icing up and down the shin bone, but you're kind of teasing towards the muscle at the same time. You're just trying to make that a little bit more flexible between the two. But you did also do a competition, didn't you? I know. Did you do the brass monkey race?
Yeah, I did. Last Sunday.
And came out of it with a little bit of a toe incident, should we say?
Yeah, a little bit of a bruised, sore toe.
Did get a message from Charlotte that we had a lot of blood under the toenail, a blood blister under the toenail. So you did go and you got somebody to drill out or to make a little hole through the nail to let the blood out, right?
Yeah, I couldn't actually do it myself. So I got my boyfriend to do it, and I was sort of like this looking away. But it's really helped, actually. It's completely fine now. I thought I was going to be out of running for like a week or so because it was so painful, and I was sort of hobbling around for a couple of days. But once you actually get like through the nail, it's fine. It just obviously a quite gross thing to do. But it was like an instant help.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a little blister between the nail and the nail bed, basically. So you've got it, once you get that blood out, you can save the nail and get it to stick back down again. More important, isn't it, Thommo, to look at the causes? So either perhaps your shoes are too small or too big and you're sliding and butting into it. Were there a lot of downhills in the race?
No, it's actually one of the flattest races. In the area, but I think it was I've had a lot of problems with shoes in the past with like not sizing up enough, and I think it is just how like it was slightly too small. They weren't worn in. They weren't the shoes I would normally wear for a race. But I was looking for more cushioning because of my shin problem. So yeah, I wasn't wearing my normal shoes, and I've learned a lesson from that. Basically, I learned what not to wear for the actual marathon day, which is, like considering it. Like it all helps. It's a shame that it has to be in a race setting where you're in pain for a good 2 hours.
And I think the big lesson, isn't it, Thommo, now with the shin issue, is that unfortunately in marathon training things crop up and things happen. The more respect and the quicker your response when they do happen, the quicker you can get back into running. And don't worry, you have time until London. Most programs kind of build in a couple of weeks off or back. You're going to have some setbacks within that, and there is time allowed in the schedule for that. So main thing is don't panic. Do what you can do to maintain your fitness and do what you can do to get over it.
Yeah, I'm just spending a lot of time in the gym at the moment and not outside, which is unfortunate, but
Charlotte, do you feel like, obviously, if you didn't have the marathon aim and you have the setback, is the fact you've got that aim kind of the motivation to get into the gym? Otherwise, you potentially, if you'd have had that, found it as a reason to not do anything at all for a week or two. So do you find this marathon aim and this project kind of bringing about good other good things like keeping yourself going in the gym?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's always good to have a goal in mind, and it keeps you like going when you don't want to go. Basically, it makes you kind of you think about it, and then obviously on the marathon day, that's what is in your mind. It's all those times you didn't want to do stuff or you felt like you couldn't. It's like that's your motivation. But I don't think I would do a week where I didn't do anything because it makes me feel better. I love like being active and like exercising and stuff, so I think I would still try and do things. It's just the way I would do it would have to change. Obviously, like I'm spending a lot of time on the Stairmaster, which is not that fun, but I do love doing stuff. It's just like when running sort of something that you enjoy and like gives you a lot of like it's I don't know, it's like a good mental space for me, and I don't have that at the moment. I don't have a lot of opportunity to get outside, and I think I'm starting to feel the effects of that just a little bit, like in the gym again rather than being outside in the fresh air. But I'm still showing up. I think that's the important thing. Trying to remind myself like I'm still doing the work, so I'm not just sitting back and
definitely you're doing the mental work.
Yeah, I think that's what's going to pay off on the day, is thinking about this time when it was hard and I'm still doing it.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. Good luck with the shin splints. Let us know how the physio goes when you check in there. And err on the side of caution, getting back into it. Stay off-road as much as possible.
And we look forward to catching up with you again and hearing you're back out running again shortly.
Thanks, Charlotte.
Thank you.
It's that time where I'd like to take a moment to thank our friends at Wild Nutrition, Paula, for sponsoring today's episode, who are offering Paula's Run Club listeners 50% off 3 months.
Yep, really excited about this one, Thommo. Wild Nutrition believe that your body is wired to absorb nutrients from food, and that's why they never add synthetic fillers or binders ever.
No, that's right. They just use food-grown ingredients that are close to their original food form as possible, which are scientifically shown to be better absorbed and better retained in your body.
Exactly, and for all the runners listening, their food-grown magnesium is a prime supplement to take if you're regularly physically active. It's important to help support normal muscle function.
Yeah, and it's found to help relax the body after intense exercise, which is important for what we're talking about right now. And it's great in the evening to promote physical and mental wind down before sleep.
It really is. It's actually backed by a gold standard sleep study that found food-grown magnesium increases sleep by 42 minutes per night and sleep quality improved by 32%. It supports your nervous function and psychological function while reducing tiredness and fatigue.
Yeah, it's great to know that these products are founded by lead nutritional therapist Henrietta Norton, who's over 20 years in clinics inform every one of their products. They even have an all-women team nutritional therapist who offer a free consultation.
And just a reminder that Wild Nutrition are giving Paula's Run Club listeners an exclusive 50% off for 3 months and a free personal consultation with a nutritional therapist. Just go to wildnutrition.com/Paula to get started.
Yeah, and that's one more time. That's wildnutrition.com/Paula, so you can feel the difference yourself. Start 2026 rooted in wellness.
Thank you very much. Don't forget to check out that Wild Nutrition link. And that's about all that we've got time for this week. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a reminder that Shakeout does, of course, drop on a Thursday. And if you want to send in questions for that, the number is +44 7564 747 914. Or you can email to paulasrunclub@momentumbroadcast.co.uk or get in touch on socials. We are at Paula's Run Club for that one. Anything else, Thommo, to mention, or are we?
No. You know what? I really enjoyed that episode today with Rob. Was really brought. I think again with a lot of what we're trying to do is we're trying to have a bit of light-hearted entertainment alongside the kind of serious advice. So I enjoyed the kind of light-heartedness, friendly comedy that he brought. He's a top man. Really appreciate it.
Excellent. So thank you very much for listening. It has been a Momentum Broadcast production, and we will see you next week for week 6.
See you soon.